Welcome to the AI Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Jaeden Schaefer. Today on the podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined by Richard White, who is the founder and CEO of Fathom Video. This is an AI-powered app that records, transcribes, and highlights your meetings. So basically, users can focus on the conversation instead of trying to go and take notes the whole time. Previously, he founded UserVoice, which is a lot of people credit it with basically popularizing like the feedback tab that you see on millions of websites. He's currently deeply committed to building intuitive, user-centric productivity tools, doing a lot of cool stuff. Richard, welcome to the show.
Jaeden, thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you on. Tell me a little bit. I mean, you have a kind of an awesome background and you've done a lot of cool things in tech. What was your inspiration for kind of your next step and starting Fathom? What made you want to tackle this problem?
Sure. Yeah. It was about 5 years ago. It's like early 2020, actually before the pandemic. I was actually just doing a bunch of Zoom meetings. I was actually doing a bunch of user research for a different product. And I just was like, gosh, they say like if you stub your toe on a problem, like once a month, you don't really fix it. If you stub your toe on it like every day or 5 times a day, you very quickly fix it. And that was kind of my experience. Like I went from having, 3 to 5 Zoom meetings a day to I was doing so much research. I was doing like 20 Zoom meetings a day. And my big takeaway was like, man, trying to talk to someone and take notes at the same time is honestly one of the least fun things I could imagine doing, right? No one likes doing it. And then I remember looking at my notes like 2 weeks later and being like, I type them all on the meeting. I clean them up after the meeting. I'd look at them 2 weeks later and I'd be like, I don't remember who said this. Right. And it'd be such a shame because I'd have these great conversations and I'd miss these like really good like quotes that I want to pull out and share with my team. And so we just had this view of like, gosh, this really stinks. How do we not have technology to make this better? And that's kind of what led us down the path to Fathom. And it was kind of, I think at a, obviously it was pre-Gen AI, but we had this really strong thesis that Gen AI was going to get really good, which is pretty contrarian in 2020. It's hard to remember now, but there was a version of AI products before the current crop, right? They started in 2015, 2017, and they were really bad. And I remember investors in 2021 being like, don't put AI in your product name. And I was like, no, don't worry. Like it's going to work. So yeah, we just had this thesis around no one likes taking notes. The cost of transcription is going to zero. We can give away a free AI note taker that people want to bring in every meeting because no one likes taking notes. And we think we can build a really great business on top of that.
That's super cool. You were early on that thesis. You're early on kind of the concept. I want to get into what the product does today, but I would love to hear a little bit about the evolution of the product. I feel like what you start with is rarely what you end with in software and tech. So tell me about like the early days. What were you using? How is it accomplishing it? What were the limitations? And then where is it at today?
In the beginning, like you could transcribe a call, but you really didn't have AI to be able to like write notes like you can today. Like today, the app can write notes better than any human. It can figure out the action items. It can fill in your CRM. But in the beginning, we didn't have that. But it was kind of like we were building a car and expecting to drop a new engine into it later, right? It's like, oh, let's go build all the hard stuff, which is actually not the AI parts. It was, how do you capture meetings reliably? How do you capture them quickly? Like I remember in the beginning, our first version of this product took half an hour after the meeting to like get the recording and the transcript and whatnot. And I remember telling the team, like, that's too slow. And they're like, well, how fast does it need to be? I'm like, well, we're competing with notes, which are instant. I was like, I don't think they have to be instant, but it needs to be a lot faster than 30 minutes. It's like, just keep making it faster and I'll tell you when it's fast enough. And so I remember going from like 30 minutes to 10 minutes to 5 minutes, 2 minutes. We got to about 30 seconds. And I was like, okay, that's fast enough. It takes me half 30 seconds to get off the meeting anyways. So it'll feel instant, even if it's not instant. So that was a big difference between now and then. It's like, a lot of the work was just like, how do you, these are not documented APIs. Like in that day and time, you're like sending a bot into a meeting. There's no API for that. Like it's literally you're running a browser in the cloud that's capturing the screen. Like it's a very Rube Goldberg machine sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that was one piece. The other piece we had is like, because we couldn't take notes, we just had a button we gave our users. It was like, if you hear something important, click the button and we'll like highlight that part of the meeting sort of thing. But that was the part where like, okay, this is like a throwaway feature because we know in the future, no one's going to have to do anything. You're just going to sit back and the AI will take the notes for you. But the hard part in the beginning was like building out all the infrastructure to make, videos, recordings are big. And so like, make sure they get there in a very timely fashion.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that infrastructure does take a long time to get right for sure, especially at the beginning. I mean, I would love to hear some of the cool features that you guys are doing today, because I think a lot of people are familiar with this concept. Like every Zoom meeting I go into now has different AI note-taking apps. So I'd love to hear what are some of the features you guys have, and then also what are some of the things that make you different, right? If there's a handful of these AI kind of note takers, what makes what do you guys do? What's the secret sauce?
Honestly, the secret sauce is our AI team, which I think that in the age of AI, one of the most challenging things is that traditional software has kind of a binary outcome. The feature works or it
Yeah.
doesn't, right? In AI land, when you're building software, it's like getting the AI to spit out something is not hard, right? If I asked, if you want to build an AI to like summarize your meetings, you could build that in a weekend.
Hmm.
Now, it might write a summary for your meetings that is accurate, but 10 pages long, right? And that may not be what you want, sort of thing. And so that's one of the challenging pieces. Like, it's kind of, I think, broken how a lot of companies do software. This is why I think incumbent software companies struggle so much with AI features, is
Sure.
because it's a totally different QA process. It's not like
Hmm.
it spits out content. It's like, does it spit out the right content? And what is the right
Yeah.
content? So we spend a lot of time at Fathom thinking a lot about, like, how do we write the best possible notes? How do we get the most accuracy out of our AI pipelines, right? Whether it's action items or meeting summaries or whatnot. How do we give users a lot of ways to customize that? So you can be like, hey, I love this summary that you wrote. Can you always add these 3 questions into it, right? At these 3 sections. Yeah. So you can like give feedback to the AI and it remembers and says, okay, next meeting, I'll remember
That's
to like
so useful.
structure it in that way. Right.
Yeah.
Because the most accurate summary is the one that fits what you want.
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of times, you might be in a customer facing role in sales or customer success, and you're wanting to feed this into like a CRM or something like that. So you have specific questions you're trying to get out of the meeting. But yeah, I think the interesting thing about the evolution of the space is GPT-4 was a big turning point where AI can now take better notes than humans. And so now you're kind of seeing, I think we have the highest quality summaries, but every platform now can generate a summary. Now the
Hmm.
frontier for us is what can we do across basically a big corpus of meetings. So let's say you're a sales manager and you've got a 10-person sales team. You want to know lots of things. You want to know like, hey, there's a script they're supposed to follow. Are they following it? Hey, there's certain moments I really care about. Was there a new competitor that got mentioned positively? Was there a pricing conversation that didn't go well? Was there,
Mm.
an objection from a buyer that we've never heard before? We don't have a good answer to. And all that stuff you can do now, and you can now do in our product. And like, what's really exciting is the frontiers move from like taking really good notes on a meeting to having AI that understands important moments, understands tone, understands emotion, and also can spot trends across a big body of meetings and communication with customer.
That's really powerful. Yeah, that makes a huge difference. I'm wondering, like, is there anything that has surprised you I mean, you've been working on this product for a number of years now, in basically like how people actually use meeting recordings versus how you expected it? Like when you first made the product, is there anything that's like you were like, oh man, I guess people use it like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we thought originally that the way you take notes is you're doing them generally right after the meeting, or like you're doing them during the meeting a little bit after the meeting, and then so you're immediately like working on them. And so we kind of
Mhm.
thought you might do that. But what turns out to happen is like once you trust the AI to do the work for you, you don't go to every meeting afterwards and like sanity check that it was correct. You share it out with your colleagues. And then honestly, you don't look at it again until you have the next meeting. Right. So it's like it actually forms where note taking, all the effort is front loaded. Right. I take the
Mhm.
notes. I'm like very in that. And then I kind of file it away. And I often don't ever look at my notes again. Right. Like I think that's the dirty little
Yeah.
secret. Like a lot of these notes you never see, you never look at them again. This is inverted that where it's like, the system takes the notes for me. I don't go spot check them. What I do is, oh, Jaeden, if I met with you a month ago and I'm meeting with you again an hour before my call with you, I go look at those notes,
Yes.
right? And I like watch the last minute of the meeting and it snaps. It's kind of a mnemonic that helps me. It almost feels like I just got off the last call with you, right? And so it's
Yep.
completely, the usage pattern is almost inverted from what we expected.
That's really funny. That makes a lot of sense, and I 100% also do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty accurate. As far as like what you guys are building, do you think that Fathom's gonna, are you guys ever gonna evolve it to kind of do beyond just meetings, maybe like productivity assistant, email, documents, project management, like other things, or are you gonna kind of focus narrowly on the video side?
I mean, we focus on meetings because they're the biggest data set in a corporation, an organization, right? It's like,
Yeah.
there's what's in your email, there's what's in your Slack. And what we looked at when we started Fathom was, gosh, there's so much content in these meetings. And so, yeah, so we're looking at a couple of different dimensions now. One is around what can we do for the person in the meeting? How do we help you, not only take the action items, but start doing the action items? Part of that is through like ecosystem and API partnering with other tools that will like, hey, you wanted a statement of work written up. We'll automatically generate that for you, right? You're supposed to create a
Mhm.
presentation out of this. Let's go ahead and like feed that into a presentation software, right? So the future I get really excited about in meetings is 2 big components. One is you kind of speak things into existence just by meeting and talking about it, right? Imagine we have a meeting and all of our action items in the meeting people hate meetings because they generate a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
It's like you get out of this meeting, you get off, you're like, okay, I have more work than when I started this meeting. And I
Yeah.
get excited about this world where you have less work when you get off that meeting, right? Like, the email's already drafted and, we can draft follow-up emails for you, but we're looking more at like, can we create the artifacts you discussed in the meeting? Oh, you said you're going to set
Man.
up that email inbox, right? So I think that's where the space is going a lot. How do we do the jobs for you that are easy
Mhm.
to do or always get started and let you edit them? And then the other dimension I think is really interesting is everyone's in too many meetings. So many cases, especially internally, where people are in these recurring meetings that they really don't need to be in, right? Like, yeah, I always joke about like, someone needed to be in a meeting once, they needed to hear one topic once, and now they're forever stuck in that recurring meeting, right? Now they're going to spend an hour every week, even though they don't care about more than 8% of the content in this meeting.
Yeah.
And so I get really excited about a world where you can cut back your meeting diet quite a bit. And you have almost an AI agent that's listening for things relevant to you and pulling that into your awareness. And so now instead of me having 6 hours recurring meetings this week across, my cross-functional teams and my direct, no, I have like just the meetings with the people I really work with intensely. And when there are these big status meetings, something comes up about my project that gets funneled to me. One of the most fun prototypes I've seen of this is we can take a lot of these like all hands and team meetings, whatnot, and package them into a personalized like podcast. This is not something we're doing today in the product. It's like a prototype, but like,
Okay.
think about like, you're a manager or you're an IC or something. And every week, to start your week, you get like here's the 10-minute podcast of what happened last week for you to catch up on, right? Just finding more engaging because meetings aren't fun to watch. No one wants to watch a meeting, right?
Yeah.
Even if you, especially if you were on it, right? So I think there's a lot of stuff like that where we're thinking a lot of how do we disseminate information in the organization without you having to be there and synchronous.
Okay, the concept you talked about where like you do a meeting and it's like working on the fault, like the action items, that is, I think, a lifesaver that literally everyone is begging for. So I'd like pray you can expedite delivering on that, because that would be incredible. And I'd be curious, like your perspective on this. I think it's interesting. I know a lot of people that use this software and it's obviously very useful. And I'm curious your perspective as the person that makes it, but it's just sometimes the dynamics of it are kind of funny. One of the things that I think is funny is like, for example, you talked about this recurring meeting thing. And so I think right now, like a lot of people have different, like these agents that they'll like send to the meeting for them, right? It takes notes and it follows up with them. And I'm curious your take on it, because I honestly feel like whenever I'm in those meetings, whoever's running the meeting is like, is Jeff there? And it's like, oh, Jeff's like meeting note taker is there, and they always seem like they're so offended that they wouldn't like come in person, but like at the same time it's not really useful. So anyways, I always think that's kind of funny.
That's actually like one use case we don't like. One of the things we do differently than most of the people in space is we follow you into the meeting. I actually think from a social perspective, that is kind of a faux pas of like, it wasn't important enough for me to attend your meeting. I'm sending my bot, right? Like
Totally.
I think it'll get
Yeah.
normalized over time, but like we actually don't like, you can't do that with Fathom actually. And we kind of, because we don't actually want to be associated with that from a brand perspective. And we tend to find it's like a very small percentage of the market wants to do it. I think over time it become normalized, but if it wasn't Jeff's note taker, if it was just like the company note takers in here, and so like, oh, Jeff's not showing up, but oh, we know he's going to get the updates. Or maybe in real time, Jeff is getting fed stuff that he needs to know about this meeting, but he's busy doing other work. That's fine, right? But you're right. It's like a real kind of social faux pas. Like, I could have come to your party. I sent my bot to come to your party instead, sort of thing, right? I hired someone at Upwork to wear a t-shirt with my name on it and send them to your party, right? Like, yeah, that's not cool, right? So
no, 100%. That's funny. Okay, so back to the actual important thing that I'm excited about, which is if you did a meeting and it'd be able to actually go accomplish some of the deliverables, whether that's making the email or a presentation, or like that would be incredible. What are some of like the biggest technical challenges in actually like in pulling that off? I mean, I know we're like a little ways away and you guys are thinking about it. What's some of the biggest hurdles?
Yeah, actually, a lot of them I don't think are actually that far off. A lot of the actions that come out of your meetings are pretty straightforward. It's like email this person, log this thing in this system, right? It's schedule the meeting with this person, right? So there's a lot of things that I imagine will probably get done in the next year. But the harder ones are the like, hey, we need to build this whole like statement of work, or we need to write a proposal or whatnot. And there it really just falls on the AI having enough context about your work. What does a proposal look like in your organization? And like may actually be pretty easy to do that sort of thing. One prototype we did recently was we asked Fathom, like, the other side is I think is really interesting is like a lot of stuff you do at a company is documentation. Like, we need to write up our plans for this, or it needs to include how this thing's worked so far and the changes we want to make. And so we just prototype, like, we use we've used a lot of different transcription engines throughout our history here at Fathom. And it's just an experiment where we maintain this like wiki page of all the history of the stuff. Like, you can go to our
Yeah.
code base and look. But what if we just ask Fathom, because Fathom has the context of every meeting we've ever had, engineering meetings, all hands, whatnot. And we just asked it like, hey, can you give us a history of transcription engines at Fathom? And it wrote this like 5-page Wikipedia style article of every design technical decision we've made over 5 years. And you're like, oh, that's kind of mind blowing, right? So like once you
Yeah.
have enough data in the system, it can actually, it can have all the context it needs to do actually pretty hard jobs. It's just about wiring these things together in a way that works for most people.
That's such a great use case, and hopefully that's coming soon. Something that I've heard like from different people that I've talked to about these like the AI meeting note takers and like a lot of those different things. Some people, and I know like probably a lot of it's not justified, but I just get this like pushback on it. So I'm curious what your take is, which is that some people worry that it's making like AI is basically making work more like surveillance sort of, where it's like maybe your boss will, I know you guys don't do it where you'll send someone, but maybe like there's a note taker in there and it's like tracking who says what or like how many words you say or something, and it's gonna like score people like these people don't participate and they have like this like sort of like data. What do you guys do, or is there anything, or maybe just your thoughts on this, but do you guys do anything at Fathom that makes it feel like less like you're being monitored and more like it's empowering you?
I mean, one thing we do, early versions of the software, specifically ones that were like built for sales teams, you had no choice. A lot of users, like it would join every meeting. You had and you didn't know who could see it. You like knew everyone in management could see it. You just could see it. And so one model we always want to have early on is like, make sure there's like awareness. Like, so, maybe you are in a sales team and your manager's saying, yeah, I want to make sure I could see it. Make sure you know exactly who can see this, right? And going in where this is going to go and stuff like that. We generally counsel people like let your team make decisions about visibility of meetings, right? Don't like edict these things top down. And like, that's our default behavior is like, if I have something that's embarrassing, I don't want it to automatically get shared with the entire company, right? Like, and so I think our big premise is always like, we want to put power in the hands of people that are actually on the meetings. They have some say in like what gets shared.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's important, and makes a big impact for a lot of people that might be concerned about that. Talk to me a little bit about like your overall entrepreneurial journey. So you founded UserVoice. Now you've shifted over to Fathom. What are some lessons you learned from UserVoice, or like your early days of entrepreneurship that you've brought over here that have been helpful in your current company?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I started my career as an engineer and then kind of a product designer and then kind of a product focus, like CEO founder. Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing I've learned is actually be really good at getting people to like be really good at being an includer. Like when you're building something, you hear someone else building something competitive, see if you can like fold them into your thing, or vice versa. Like be willing to like swallow your ego and join someone else's stuff. Like all the best stuff in my career generally happens when I was one willing to like sacrifice my own ego and like let's work together on this. The other big thing I've seen is like I've had like a lot of kind of sliding doors moments in my career happen when I was bold enough to like reach out to the right person with the right message. The founders of Twitch, I worked on their startup company before Twitch, and it was because I just cold emailed them and said, I really like the problem you're working on. I think I can help you. Yeah, I actually think what you've built is pretty ugly, and I want to be a designer, so I'm going to help you fix it. Right.
That's
a big part of Fathom's story was we were one of the first apps to launch. Zoom built a marketplace during COVID, and we were there at launch day. And so, marketplaces don't open up very often. My buddy Justin, actually, who was one of the founders of Twitch, says like first time founders think about product, second time founders think about distribution. And so I think about distribution a lot, right? And, we got into that program. It was us and a bunch of, name brand companies, Atlassian, Figma, whatnot, because I cold emailed the like person running that program at Zoom. And it's like, I think we'd be a great fit for this, even though we had like a barely working alpha. I think a lot of stuff happens when you just kind of like are tenacious and when you are good at being inclusionary, right? And I think as an entrepreneur, your bias is often be exclusionary. I mean, I grew up in an area, I grew up where you're sitting now in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's not at least when I grew up, it wasn't a big entrepreneurial hub. And so I did a bunch of stuff as a kid. Like I was doing websites in high school, but I think I quickly built up this muscle memory that like, I'm the most entrepreneurial person I know. So I'm just going to try to Heisman this thing and just do it all myself. And I had to like unlearn that motion, right? I'm like, and had to learn like, oh no, how do I, instead of just trying to do everything myself, how do I go find pockets of people that are entrepreneurial like me and like
Mm.
work with them? So I think be an includer and be willing to kind of just like be tenacious about, reaching out to people.
I love it. Those are some, yeah, that's amazing advice. Great life lessons. When you look at the future of where this tech goes, and I know like today you can't just send your bot by itself or your assistant or whatever to go and take notes. But like when you look at the future of this tech, let's say 1, 2, 3 years in the future, where do you think this goes? What do you think it looks like? Is this something where everyone sends their AI assistants to the meetings to like, and they like give it the message and they all chat with each other and they come back and bring you like points back? Like what is this going to look like in the years to come?
I mean, there's this funny scenario I think about where, we're 5 to 10 years in the future. And if you jumped on a Zoom meeting, it would look, maybe you jumped on a sales meeting between two companies, it would look just like it looks today. But what you wouldn't realize is it's just AIs talking to AIs. And I imagine this
Mhm.
future potentially where it's like, oh, first it starts off with face tuning. Like, okay, I don't look that great, so I'm going to face tune. Oh, well, now they've got they've got some tools where it's like you could be laying in bed and it looks like you're sitting up and watching the screen, right? At some point, does
Mhm.
it turn into this world where, you know, we've slowly removed all the humans and replaced them all with AIs, but they look like humans. And so like we're expending massive computing resources to have these like kabuki theater kind of thing happening where two companies are talking to each other, but it's just their AIs, but they're talking as if humans. Like, I don't know. It's a fun thought experiment for me. I don't know if exactly that's what's going to happen, but I think that's kind of funny. I do think in the short term, there's just so much value in this data set. And then, once you merge this data set, what's being said in meetings, what's being said in emails, what's being said in Slacks,
Mhm.
I do think you can start building really high performing companies that are really small. I mean, we have a goal at Fathom of we want to get to 100 million in recurring revenue with less than 150 employees. When I first told people about this 3 or 4 years ago, people were like, that's kind of an insane goal, right? The only companies
Mhm.
that have really done that are like a WhatsApp or Instagram. It's like really consumer companies that really took off.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think you do as a B2B company. And now I tell people this goal and they're like, yeah, of course you can do that. Right. And so I think there's
Yeah.
like this really interesting thing where like, because we have all these data sets and because we'll each have our own kind of like AI agents that are mining these things for us and informing us of things, you will be able to get so much done as a small team. And I think you're
Mhm.
seeing this shift in org construction. You're not seeing companies build out giant executive teams and middle management teams. And you're focusing much more back on building teams that are doing more than managing.
Yeah, I love the shift, honestly. Companies are becoming a lot more efficient, but I think consequently that means that more people can work on, like, on more projects. So more companies will come to fruition, which I think is a really cool prospect and yeah, it's gonna be awesome for innovation. Richard, as we're wrapping up, I would love you talk a little bit about what you think in the future in the industry and in as a whole. I would love, is there any exciting new features or things that you guys are looking at or building towards or really excited about over there?
Yeah. We just launched one, which is kind of like we can now have like an AI coach, right, for like sales and CS teams that is literally, giving teams feedback on, hey, there's 8 things that help you win a deal sort of thing. We'll track and let you
Mhm.
know which ones you missed and sort of stuff like that.
Cool. Oh, very
We
cool.
just launched that, which is super cool, right? These are things like, again, no one wants to sit and watch meetings, right? It's like
Yeah.
every manager in the world knows they should do this. It's like eating your vegetables. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should be watching your team's customer meetings and giving them feedback. No one has time to do it. So
Yeah.
AI is actually a good place to do that. The other thing that well, 2 things we're close to launching. Like one is the ability to capture meetings without a bot. We're hearing that a
Cool.
lot from customers, right? Like there's now so many bots in these meetings. Like it's the tragedy of the commons, right? There's like more bots than people. And so that's good. I mean, we've heard a lot of folks say like, I want to capture a meeting without necessarily capturing the audio and video because this is,
Mhm.
I didn't, it was an internal meeting. I didn't like the way I looked or dressed today. And I don't want the stress of having the video. Great. We got
Yeah.
you. We're adding the ability for you to capture in-person meetings. You can drop, you know, iPhone with a Fathom
Cool.
app on it on a desk, click a button, and it'll kind of, capture the meeting as if you were on a call like this. So there's a lot of fun stuff that has really been enabled by speaker diarization models have gotten a lot better. And so
Okay.
diarization is a fancy way of saying who said what in a meeting and also being able to know who you are. Because traditionally when you have products like that, so like Notion and some folks have a product where like it'll capture audio without a bot, but it doesn't know who said what. It's just like, here's all the words that were
Mm,
said. And for all the stuff we want to build, it's really important to know who said what. That context is really important, right? When you think about action
yeah.
items and you think about artifacts you want to generate. But now we're at this place where we can tell like we know what you sound like. And so if you're in a meeting, we drop on the table, not only know there's 3 voices in here, we know Jaeden sounds like this. That voice is clearly Jaeden because we've heard you before. So there's a lot of fun stuff like that. And the one I'm most excited about is just expanding our concept of Ask Fathom, which is like ChatGPT for your meetings, so that it knows about every meeting you've ever had with Fathom. To date, It's been limited to n number of hours, but now it's like it can look to your whole company history or personal history and get you an answer in like 30 seconds about anything. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it makes it so much more useful. It's like when ChatGPT added memory, and now when I talk to it, remember something I said like 4 months ago, and I'm like, thank you for not making me explain that for like the 500th time. So that is a phenomenal feature. Oh my gosh, Richard, you guys are working on some super cool things. Thank you so much for spending your time coming on the show today and telling us a little bit about the future of AI and video and note-taking and productivity in the space. So really excited. Love to have you on again sometime. If people are interested in checking out Fathom, what's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, just go check it out. We actually just rebranded as Fathom AI. So go to fathom.ai. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm just Richard White. Feel free to drop me a message.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. To all of the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the AI Chat podcast. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next episode.